is there a right age to buy a house?
Never invest in real estate in your 30s or early years.
So Hyderabad has this concept of unlimited FSI. Can you tell me what this unlimited FSI is? Right, because it sounds too good to be true.
So right from the beginning, we were very tech focused. So we established a digital twin, very accurate digital twin of the real world.
Yeah.
You go to IKEA and you buy furniture. What do? You open the manual, there are components, and they'll establish an assembly sequence. For us, building is now like an IKEA manual. So, and I was not very good at studies. I was like probably below average.
I read a report where it's always the C grade student that becomes the best entrepreneur.
Risk-taking ability is zyada hota hai. Where I do see AI playing role is little less on the robotic side in construction, but intelligence, what it's giving, more and more it's pushing us to increase productivity.
You know, last year when I had started this podcast show, the real estate show with Mayank, I'd made a promise to all my viewers that we'll get top developers throughout India and will not be stuck to one particular region. And today I have Mr. Ajitesh with me, the founder and CEO of ASBL Developers. They've bagged 10 million square feet in just 7 years, one of the fastest growing developer story in India. I'd like to welcome Ajitesh. Ajitesh, thank you so much for giving us your time and changing the landscape of Hyderabad.
Thank you, Mayank. It's a pleasure to meet you and connect to your audience through you.
Thank you.
Really looking forward for this conversation.
Absolutely. You know, it will be very enlightening for all of us. You know, we'll get to learn a lot about how Hyderabad real estate works. And yeah, it's a next, I think, melting pot in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just a couple of things, you know, just this is a book I've written.
Oh, nice.
Just wanted to give you for your time, right? Just a token of appreciation from my end. This is a part of our green initiative.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Interesting.
Plant,
Wow.
green plant, and just a hamper.
Oh, thank you so much, man.
Thank you so much for taking your time.
No, it's my pleasure. I'm going to place the book here. Take it while going.
It's free branding. So Ajitesh, great growth story, right? 10 million square feet, 7 years. Can you tell me how and why this happened?
See, Mayank, I would attribute that 50% at least to being in the right place at the right time, right? So I started my career in Hyderabad because I come from the same city. And when I started my real estate practice, that's exactly when the city was taking off. If you look at Hyderabad's history a little bit, particularly from 2008 to 2015, after the financial collapse, which happened in 2008, the city never took off because of Telangana agitations and all of that. Right, and that's where it saw very prolonged slump. From 2015, after the state got divided, the new government came in, things have settled down, at least these sort of things have settled down. And then that's when the city went into a crazy uptick. Right. Even massive amount of infrastructure developments began to occur, and you know the city was opening itself up. So I was lucky to be there, right? That was on the luck side. But what was the thing on the logic side, on the strategy side that worked for us, is that right from beginning we wanted to be a asset-focused company. So I, before starting this practice, I come from a real estate family background. I could look at my the sort of mistakes my dad and all could do. Did in their careers and sort of learned from that. So one I saw was being asset focused it's hugely advantage, because real estate in any city you travel in 25 kilometers in any direction, the customer changes. Right. It's hyper local. Absolutely. Right. The product change, the requirements change, the type of transactions change. So there's a huge diversity in all of that. And unless you specialize, you're going to, or you become more model centric, you're going to face problems when you're operating in different areas. So we took a call that let's only operate in the apartment segment. Right. So we purely operate in the condo segment. So that was one thing which worked very well for us. So which improved our specialization in that domain. And then second thing, again, we became very micro market centric. Generally, developers operate on all sides of the city. That is also a good strategy because you're more diversified that way. But we took a more centralized approach, more focused approach, where we were like, okay, let's focus on just 2 micro markets. Let's try to improve the market share there rather than going in different directions of the city. So we predominantly operate in southwest of Hyderabad, which is the financial district, the new epicenter of Hyderabad. Right. So these 2 things have hugely helped our company to scale. And then the third one is, unlike most of the developers and the more, I would say the conventional practices, even now, is joint development structure.
Right.
So as a developer, what I do in this, as a developer, let's say you're a landowner, I come to you and a partner, right?
Right.
You supply the land, I supply my expertise. Maybe you get 30 to 50% of the share depending on the market conditions, and I get the rest.
Right.
So this is called joint development structure, right? We pivoted from this model to our outright structure. So we go to a landowner, we buy the land upfront, and then we start building. So this is much more capex heavy, much more risky.
Right.
But the advantage is you have better bottom lines.
Right.
But for us to reduce the risk, we had to be much more data centric. See, in joint development, the skin in the game for a developer is negligible. I just pay basic goodwill or
Right.
advance or something, right? What happens if the product market fit is wrong? Or what happens if my approvals are getting delayed? As a developer, I'm not really worried, because the longer it takes, the more mature the area becomes, the better the price goes up. But when you're buying a land, your skin in the game is very high, almost 15x more than in joint development structure.
Absolutely.
So you can't go wrong, right? So that made us like to think to reduce that risk. So we set up a dedicated research team studying the market patterns, and more importantly, product market fit. Real estate mein product market fit is something which is very complicated and people seldom do. So that's something we started specializing in. And yeah, and hopefully good amount of them worked, those strategies. So good for us.
Very well summarized. Product market fit is very important. Even if you build the best product in a wrong location, it will not sell. And if you build a bad product in a great location, again, it won't sell. So how do you guys identify that product market fit? Like you said, it's hard to get it right, but what kind of data do you study to get that right?
Now all developers all of us as an industry, we are smart when it comes to location. Nobody will go and really invest in wrong location. Utna to akal
Right.
hai.
Absolutely.
Right. But where we do mistake is doing wrong product at a location. That's what we miss. So what we started doing is, so we, who our customer is, we formed focus groups of these customers and started research and like talking with them through focus groups and one-on-one interviews, like how they live. Like we actually went, like I myself went to a few of our customers' houses and seen how they've actually arranged the furniture. Plan mein jab wo kharida tha, right? What was the furniture setup there? And when they're actually living, how is it being done? So this gave us a lot of insight, right? And then we started seeing patterns in 30 to 35 age group ka pattern kaisa hai. 30 to 35, Telugu family, how they live, North Indian family, how they live. Because Hyderabad has a lot of North Indian people living in western suburbs of Hyderabad, right? And then 40 to 45, how the requirement for space change. Let me give a good example. When we were doing one project in the central part of Hyderabad, right? In that neighborhood, when we did a survey, we found that the average number of people living in a household are higher. Typically in western suburb, which is a financial center, their average 4 people live per household, 3 to 4, 3.6 kuch tha metric. Here it was 5.3. Matlab, it's the family of 4 plus the parents of the husband or the wife are also staying there.
Right.
Then when we were talking with the homeowners, somewhere like after talking with 10-15, when we collated the data, we could see that there was subtle, very psychological, subtle element of guilt in the homeowners when it comes to the their parent ka requirement. They feel like, okay, in most of the houses they are staying, the parents are given the smaller room. Naturally, because in every house, a house typically has how many master bedroom? 1 master bedroom.
Correct.
Right? Then you have 2 guest bedroom or kids bedroom. Those bedrooms are small. So that was somewhere subtly, psychologically, they were feeling guilty that, Arey, my parents who have given so much to me, I'm giving them a small room. Then we came with the concept that for that micro market, we came up with the concept of 2 master bedrooms. So this is what is product market fit. So in this project, the master bedroom and the parents' bedroom are same size with same features, with a walk-in dress, right, bigger size and a balcony and all of that. So if you get it right to that level, then it adds huge advantage. See, ultimately what, you look at iPhone, right? iPhone or any of your smartphone, there's every 2 years, there's some feature upgradation going on. That's how they could hook on the customers for 16 versions, maybe 20 years, I guess. Right? If you look at house, it's also the same. It's all features what we are talking. Bedroom, walk-in closet, kids bedroom, den, home office. These are all features. So depending on your customers, if you design your features well, you're going to get a very good reception. So another interesting thing we found out was a lot of our customers in the financial district area are double income households. That is both the wife and the husband are working. These cases, the woman has the extras in almost 99% of the households. The woman has the extra responsibility of managing the household as well.
Right.
Right? She only does it. So in that part, we saw that a lot of our customers were in the 30 to 35 age group. So they just had a kid or the childbearing phase में था. So that's when we realized that okay, one, they were doing work from home and they were bringing up a newborn child. It was naturally space in the house comes down. So we came up with the idea that okay, a lot of work from home has increased. So work from home, we set up a co-working space within our community.
Right.
Then we said that okay, co-working space is here. Generally, you look at the crush, it's some corner of the building which is like a leftover place. You give it to crush, but that's not how it's how the space gets used by kids.
Right.
So when we got in child psychology and again did interviews, we placed a co-working studio and the crush right beside each other. So the mom drops the kid, walks 50 steps and works. If the baby cries loud, she can go.
And because of doing this, you saw tangible outcome
Yes.
in higher sales as
Yes,
well.
absolutely. That's one reason why we've been scaling. And this is happening because we are serving 2-3 customer categories. That's it, because of our focused approach.
Right.
So ultimately, our product solves for what? Lifestyle needs, right? Let's say I remove the co-working studio and the crash. What happens? People need a house, they'll still buy it. But for crash, again, they have to take their car out, travel 15-20 minutes and drop the kid and come back. In case of child emergency, again, from the office, the mother has to run or the father has to run and pick him up. So all of these things are, if these problems you can solve, there's a value add which you're giving to your customers, right?
Right.
That is what is really up. In fact, that is what is leading to increase in sales.
Right.
And the more and more I see, the future is getting in that direction. No longer are we selling homes, we are selling homes embedded with services.
Right.
That's the future.
Absolutely. Fully decked, uploaded.
Yeah.
Like the new cars that we also
exactly,
have.
right? Now these days, like BYD and Tesla have autonomous cars, right?
Absolutely.
You can have tiffin while going to your office.
Absolutely.
Right? You'll end up saving extra 50. You can sleep 15 minutes more.
Absolutely. It'll be interesting to see how the autonomous works in India and on these roads. But I'm sure every problem can be solved. I mean, that's the beauty of tech and driven entrepreneurs in general, right?
Yeah, exactly, right.
Now, Ajitesh, it almost feels like you entered real estate with a lot of clarity. To me, it feels like you didn't have those those trial error runs where
I was lucky that
you enter with a lot of clarity, right? But you're also an economics graduate with a minor in mathematics and philosophy, right, from Purdue in America. Did that in any way help you in real estate in Hyderabad?
No, not at all.
So what exactly gave you this clarity? Like,
in fact, I keep complaining to my dad that he unnecessarily wasted his money and my time in getting me educated so far. I would have been, after 10th, I wanted to go to office. Like that much I loved the subject. Like I used to go to my father's sites when I was like 7 years, 4th class, 3rd class ka memory se. Like I really loved what happening in a construction site.
Right.
Big machines, moving, all of this. So, and I was not very good at studies. I was like probably below average.
It's always, I read a report where it's always the C grade student that becomes the best entrepreneur.
Risk-taking ability ज़्यादा होता है ना.
The C grade, वो last minute पढ़ेगा, उतना काम करना है जितना will get you through.
Exactly.
So I think the C grade student is
generally the first grade student. They're very hardworking and they have a lot of knowledge, but risk-taking ability is low.
Absolutely.
The last bencher, we are
and
on
the
the margin.
A+ grade makes the best employee.
Yes.
Because they want to, conform with the rules, regulations.
Exactly. Yeah, you go and hire them.
Yeah, absolutely, the best. So, I mean, you've been very candid that graduation did not really help you in the business. What really helped you in real estate?
So, see, first thing was Mayank, because I was exposed to our business my dad's business from very early age.
Right.
I could sort of see that when they were scaling up, what sort of problems they were facing.
Right.
And most of them I could attribute were around delivery. Purely construction, right? So right from the beginning of my career, almost for the first 3 years I worked with him. Then I set up this company. So I'm 10 years experience. For the first 3 years there, another 5 years in our company, 7-8 years, my entire focus was on delivery, making sure whatever we are committing to the customer is delivered on time and with the mentioned quality and specification. So this also I wanted to not purely not because Ajitesh wants. I have good intentions because I've realized everybody has good intent. Not like developers are villains in a movie. They're not like some Mogambo types, right? So there are people who want to do good business. But I've realized that it's not intentions. You need intelligence.
Right.
Right. Now for intelligence, what do you need? You need data. For data, you need technology so that you can capture the data. So right from the beginning, we were very tech focused. So we established a digital twin, a very accurate digital twin of the real world, right? So that we continuously get data and we are always...
This was on the Unreal Engine, the digital twin?
No, Unreal Engine is more on the design side, right?
Right.
Ours is on the operations side. Like for example, Unreal Engine doesn't know. That engine doesn't know, okay, how to build a column.
Right.
It doesn't know. In our system, it knows those things. Imagine like, have you ever been to IKEA?
Yeah,
right.
Course, yeah.
You go to IKEA and you buy furniture. What do? You open the manual. There are components, and they'll establish an assembly sequence. Right. Okay. First, take this. Imagine a building is also the same thing, just far more complicated.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all. So we figured out that problem. For us, building is now like an IKEA manual. Just that book will have 10,000 pages, but that's all it is.
So you ease the entire construction process with tech.
Yes. And so because of that, there's much more visibility for our laborers, for our project managers, right? And all the supply chain, our vendors, contractors, in knowing what needs to be done when and where. These simple things delay sites to very high level, apart from cash flow challenges. Once we fix this, then I went in solving the cash flow challenge step by step, then product market fit and things like that. So just coming back to the question, so because I was exposed to site conditions from very early age, I could realize what the problems were. So that really helped me when I was starting my career. Day one, I knew that, okay, my father struggled when the company was scaling. They really struggled with delivery challenges. Hence, their business couldn't scale beyond a point. So for first 5-7 years, let me not worry and go get 5 lands, 10 lands. Like generally, if I'm a developer, developers ka craze hota hai lands ke piche. Because that's like your mind. You have a land, you're in business. You don't have a land, you're not in business. But for first 7 years, we hardly did only one site, right? Because we wanted to get the model right. Once you get it right, automatically you scale. So that clarity, I think, was a huge advantage for me. Naturally, I'm standing on his shoulders. So all the mistakes which he has done, I didn't have to do it. So I'm lucky that way.
Right. Now you spoke of land, right, Ajitesh? How do you acquire your land? Like who funds? How do you get funding for your land?
See, typically, Mayank, for something like a land, what we do is we do debt to equity structure.
Right.
So in our case, around 1/3 of the entire purchase, let's say we are buying land worth 100 rupees.
Right.
Around 30 to 35 rupees is what we finance from our equity.
Right.
Right. We put in. And the rest 65 rupees we borrow from financial institutions.
And what's the cost of borrowing?
Around 18 to 20%.
18 to 20%.
Yeah, when you're buying land. It's high for us.
It's high for us. Right.
And that's typically financed through the AIFs, alternate investment funds.
Absolutely.
Route. All the major banking institutions have AIF institutes, AIF mechanisms. So through that, they lend.
Is 20% feasible in the long run?
It is. I'll tell you, to make 20% feasible, what we're having to do is we cannot be in the land banking strategy.
Correct.
Because क्या होता है ना, 20% debt you're carrying on your books, 18% पकड़ के चलेंगे. मतलब every 4 years, मोटा मोटी your money is doubling. Your principal is going to double. You look at any land, it's on a 5-year scale. On a year scale, sometimes it runs faster. But on a 5-year scale, it will never run at 18% speed.
Oh, no chance.
It will run at 10%.
Right.
So ultimately, then it means 8% आपका reverse you are putting from your pocket. Na.
Right.
So that's what we realized. If you are buying land with the institutional capital, we cannot do land banking. That's why we moved away from land banking.
Right.
For us, land is equivalent to steel and cement. Have you seen anybody holding steel and cement? Nobody. For us, land is also same. We buy today, tomorrow we start digging.
Work tomorrow.
Steel we buy today, tomorrow we start cutting. That's our philosophy.
Fantastic. Good clarity, Ajitesh. Like I've always... Now, tell me one thing, over the last 7 years, what is one thing that you in particular hate about real estate? And overarchingly, right? And one thing that you really like about real estate?
The thing I hate, Mayank, is the very fragmentized way the industry is. It's extremely decentralized to such a level that hardly any economies of scale can be achieved.
Right.
Right. Most of the times, at least in major cities like Bombay, you have the land, you can become a developer. You're a developer, you're only a developer because you have the land. Right? Then all your expertise goes in where? Just getting land. Your focus is in getting land rather than improving your engineering operations and your supply chain, right? You're focusing only on getting land. That's how the incentive structure is laid out at a market level. That is what I hate it. I wish a lot of the land supply is a little bit more centralized via the government auctions and things like that, wherein the government can acquire the land from people and, do master planning, right, by using urban architects.
Right.
and then sort of bid plot by plot, and then they can give back the proceeds of that to the people, right? Taking some percentage share as a service provider.
Right.
This model will make sure the quality of the urban design goes up significantly.
Right.
Because today what's happening, there is no such role. We have to go from and buy land from that particular landowner there, who stays in that neighborhood or something, and only that land might be available. Beside or around that infrastructure might not really be in good shape.
Right.
But that's the only land available. What can we do? So that's what I hated. I wish the raw material called land is available in a much more organized structure rather than a highly unorganized structure today.
Right.
That's point one. And what I like the most is the fact is everything got to do with product development. You're really, see, this is the only one of the very, very few products, right, in which people stay. Like, people stay in your product. So imagine the importance of it. Like in any consumer's life, the most important thing in anybody's life is a service called marriage. As per Contractual Services Act, it's defined as a service.
Right.
The most important product, your home. So we are dealing with a product which is like the second most important in a person's life. So the impact you can create if you get it right is very huge, right? You got your product market fit correct, and the family is having a much better quality of life, then you have really impacted them in a very big way. So that's where design comes into a very, very big important thing. So that's what I love the most. Like, okay, one is the design of a space, other is even sequencing the spaces. Which space should be after which space.
Right.
Like how placing co-working studio and crash side by side is a huge advantage.
Absolutely.
So this is what I love the most.
Figuring things out.
It's like a jigsaw puzzle, right? Like if you play the Jenga, right? Like multiple blocks, which block where you put it. So it's a similar thing.
I was reading a report on why one mall did not do well. And like you said, placing a creche next to a work from home kind of space in a society did so well for you.
Correct.
Similarly, the exact reverse was there was a mall that didn't do well at all because 80% of the shops were catering to men in the mall, which is a blunder to begin with.
Yes.
Number two was they had very wrong placements of things, such as placing a barber shop next to a cafe. Now, you don't want that because hair's flying around.
It's flying, you're ungroomed, right?
So I think we've come a long way from what earlier planning used to be to now, with people like you who are more tech enabled. I would say the new gen, the breath of fresh air into real estate, right? Now, speaking of tech, my next question to you is, we spoke of BYD and Tesla, autonomous cars. Do you see AI disrupting the construction processes? Like, do you see robots just A, replacing construction workers, B, robotic crane just automatically doing everything from start to finish? Not talking about 3D printing. In the conventional way, do you see that happening?
So let's break this question into two aspects. One is the AI, which is the thinking side of it.
Right.
Other is the robotics side of it.
Merging software into hardware.
So robotics merged with the thinking side. So when robotics get merged with thinking side, right? So then you have got, to some extent, 3D printing and these sort of things. Can it be done via an AI? See, 3D printing is also sort of a early use case.
Right.
Where the technology currently is, you can build more sort of a single family homes, like
bunkers
a villa,
and
bunker sort of thing.
G+1 at the max.
That moving into a mainstream construction of building like high-rise towers, I think it's still some distance away. But definitely where I do see AI playing role is little less on the robotic side in construction, but because of the decisions or the sort of intelligence what it's giving, more and more it's pushing us to increase productivity. Right. In the pursuit of increasing productivity, like currently most of the organized construction, the large complexes, large buildings, use shear wall technology, what you call Mayank technology.
Right.
You see aluminum panels, mold casting, right, and you just pour concrete. So now you're seeing there is a gradual shift in precast, which is even faster than that. Right, where you simply cast, concrete slabs in factories, and they just get to site and assemble. Good amount of commercial real estate has already begun migrating to that way of construction. Residential will take a little longer time because there are some teething issues, like when the two panels are joined, right? That the glues which are made, the adhesives, are not made to Indian conditions yet. So after a few years, you are seeing water leakage and all. So these teething problems have to be figured out. But that is the direction in which the industry has to go, because the quantum of construction is also going to go up a lot.
Right.
And utna labor force nahi hai. See, currently we have 70 million workers working in the field, right, in the sector, second after agriculture, right? By 2030, it's going up to 100 million, right? So after that, like, even when it goes up to 100 million, there's a huge deficit. Utna 100 million, I don't.
Is finding skilled construction labor an issue for you?
It is. It is a big issue. But then again, not something which I'll be really worried, because आजकल क्या हो रहा है, like we are making videos of let's say I'm a shatterer or I'm a bar bender, right? Steel कैसा बांधा जाता है, कौन सा steel कैसा select करना है, how to read the drawing. We are making videos of this. Most of our laborers are from Bengal in that native language, and showing this to them. So technological solutions are available. So skill, at least I don't feel it's a problem. The problem is availability, supply.
Right.
Supply ka problem hai, skill ka problem, companies will figure it out.
Right.
Not a big thing.
No,
yeah. But generally what comes out is a skill problem. But it's not a skill problem, it's supply wala problem.
Right. Now, Ajitesh, you spoke of residential and commercial right now. My question to you is, from an investment perspective, right? Say you're an end user, say you're a retail investor, right? From an investment perspective, what would you purchase, a residential house or a commercial space?
So, Mayank, it has an age-related factor also to this. So let me digress. So if I'm an investor who in my early 30s and want to participate in the real estate sector, I'll keep land out for some time. Later I'll cover that also. Let's talk built space.
Built space, yeah.
Commercial or residential. I would invest in the residential sector and use the flipping model to make money, right? Wherein which I can make conservatively, I can make around 18 to 19% CAGR. I'll explain the math also. Right. I know whenever I say this in the comment section, I can see I've seen in the previous podcast. So let me explain the math. Let's say you bought a house today. It's costing you 100 rupees, right? Now, when you buy a under construction property, most of the projects, right, there's 15% down payment which you have to do.
Right.
Right. That 15 may also, let's assume 20/80 in ease of calculation.
Right. 20. Yeah.
Right. So 15% down payment what you have to do, uske upar it's a little more easier, in which 10% you pay upfront, 5% you pay a little down the line. But let's assume the entire 15% you're paying upfront, right? Rest 85% of the money is going to be dispersed by your bank over the set of 4 years. Let's say the project is taking 4 years. Over the set of 4 years, as and when the developer keeps building and sort of achieves construction milestones, 10% money will get distributed. Right now, let's say the property is appreciating at a minimum of 6.7% compounded annually. Matlab interest ke upar interest. Why I'm telling 6.7? Why that rate? Is inflation in the country is around 6.5%.
Got it.
So roughly, if the property, in real terms, if the property appreciation is 0.
Right. At least adjusting against inflation.
Adjusting against in nominal terms, we are telling 6.7%. Now 6.7% compounded annually for 4 years, you're going to land up at what? 130 rupees. The value of your property which you bought at 100 rupees is going to be 130 after 4 years.
Right.
Now that day, let's debit the liabilities. First, you have taken 85 rupees from the bank progressively, not at one instance.
Right.
Right. That 85 rupees you debit. Currently, you're getting home loans at 8.5%.
Right.
Mota moti. Now, for this 4 years, right, depending on whatever is the principal which is dispersed each year, 1 year 20%, 1 year 30%, whatever is the construction slab, you'll end up paying another 15% as interest.
Right.
On your principal, right? So out of 130, remove the 85, you're left with 45. Usme se remove 15 rupees what you paid to the interest.
Right.
You're left with 30. You started the journey with 15, you ended with 30. Doubled your money in 4 years.
Right.
Doubling your money in 4 years is 19.1% CAGR.
Right.
That is how one makes money in. One can make money in real estate by flipping. So basically, now you see, right, Mayank, now everything can't be that rosy. There are risks to this model also. See, one of the first risks in this model is what if the timeline shifting from 4 years to probably 6 years.
Right.
Then you'll end up paying more interest and your return comes down. Now the question is, as a buyer, what research I can do so that I can minimize this risk? So best way is just before investing, go to a developer's website, see what his past projects are, and the current project is how much different from the past project. Let's say past may I'm an expert in building commercial buildings, and suddenly I'm doing a 40 floor or a high rise apartment building. Then the risk goes up because my life cycle understanding will be low. Let's say past I've done like 40 floor building, now I'm doing a 50 floor building, so reasonably same. So by doing the past project, understanding past projects and mapping it to the present project, one can get an understanding of the developer's expertise on the current project. So this way, that problem can be solved. Next is having a good understanding of the supply of this inventory in the future. Right now, where does one look for data on this? Simply go to your maharera.com or .in, whatever it is. Right. In the case of Hyderabad, it's TS RERA. In that, all the projects which have RERA approval, there is a listing, right? It's like a DB of all the projects which got approved. So you'll have detailed information like when it got approved, what is the product mix, matlab kitna 2-bedroom, kitna 3-bedroom, when they are handed over. Iske hisab se you can make a supply equation, and then you do little more research. You can get what is the employment that is getting generation, what offices are coming, what sort of infrastructure upgradations are happening, which will which will increase the ease of living. So iske hisab se you can arrive at an equation which will make sure you win 80% of the times. This is very, very important. So if I am a 30 to 35-year-old person and want to make money in real estate, I'll choose a flipping model. Now let's say I'm in like 45 to 50, right? In 45 to 50, definitely then flipping model becomes difficult because you won't get home loan to 85% because your employment period is not those many years remaining, right?
Right.
So then people can make better returns in commercial than residential, because then you want to invest in real estate mainly from the perspective of earning annuity income,
right.
rental income.
Right.
Because maybe you're earning a salary now. After you retire, that salary you will not earn. So you want income replacement tools.
Correct. A passive income.
Passive income,
right.
which is rent is a good income replacement tool.
Right.
Right. Now, residential real estate, maximum rental yield you will get is around 2%. Right. In some particular IT districts and pocket, 3.5% on tops. But average is 2.5% leke chalenge. In commercial, you can get at a retail level, you can get a reasonable return rate of 6%.
Right.
Right. At a wholesale level, let's say you're going and buying half of the building, you will get around 8.5%.
Right.
But retail level, you're going and buying some 2,000 square feet or something like that, then you will get around 6%. So that way, commercial is better. But 6%, and there is a rental. Most rental agreements have a 3-year period on which rental terms are revised anywhere from 4 to 5%.
Right.
Let's assume 4.5. So 6 plus 4.5, 10.5% return is what you can expect in commercial rental yields. So depending on what age group you are, then you do this. Now let's bring back land into this aspect. Be it commercial or now warehouses, various things are there. All of them roughly fall around that 10.5% return. Now let's bring in land back. Right now, land is, imagine investing in land from a 1-year perspective is too risky because it's impossible to cycle it. Impossible to time the cycle, right? So anytime when I say land investment should be more like an SIP wala mindset, where you put money today and wait for 7 years, 7 to 8 years ideally. Right. So 7 to 8 years ideally, land one can expect around, depending on, if you get your research right on the growing side of the city, then you can make around 15 to 18% wala return. You can make 15 is what you can ideally be sure shot.
Right.
Sometimes it will go up also, but all of us would have heard stories where our fathers or our bade papa they used to say that I bought this land 20 years it became 100 times and all. I think these are rare stories. This happened much more in the last 20 years. Now I think there's less chances for that to happen, at least in south and west of India, which is fairly industrialized. In the north of India, still there are such pockets where you can invest and wait for 10 years and get like a 20x sort of a, 10 to 15x sort of return. But south and west pretty much it's industrialized. So I think that time is over, right? So that's how I would say. So land is more like a SIP wala mindset. Invest with a long-term perspective. 7 to 8 years, you can make that 15% CAGR.
Also, there are other issues with land as well, right? Like from squatters to, that's a big, and it's still a reality in India today, right?
Yes.
Political involvement in cities, land mafia as well, at least in capital cities of India. So a lot of issues, bureaucratic issues will also arise.
Suddenly there can be a zone change. The value might be zero.
Absolutely. So
right.
I think
the risk is also naturally you're making 15% CAGR on a 7-8 year scale, but the risks are also high. What I say, the upkeep cost.
Right.
The cost of managing your land, both from a bureaucratic or government standpoint, political standpoint and local issue standpoint is much, much higher,
Yeah.
which takes away a lot of your time.
And some things are beyond your control.
Yes, you
Like a zoning change.
You can't do anything.
You can't do anything. It's just back to
unless
zero.
maybe you have 1,000 acres, then you can go and like sort of, put your case forward,
zone.
do something.
Right.
But if you have like 1-2 acres, what can you do? You can't
Absolutely,
do much.
absolutely. Yeah, but high risk, high return.
Yeah, high risk,
Like
high
you said.
return.
Now, coming from an end use perspective,
Uh-huh.
is there a right age to buy a house?
Yes, in my opinion, it's 30 to 35. Before 30s, like maybe I would say from 22 to 28, 29 is not a good time to buy. I keep seeing online Gen Zs are not buying house. I keep telling Gen Zs are not in the age of buying house. That's why they can't buy a house. See what happens in your 20s, right? People finish their education by the time they're 22, 23 and start working.
Right.
When you're most likely in your first couple of jobs, you're mostly hopping around cities. Like you don't know which city it will be. Only then, you'll get a good job, right? So there's no point of buying a house and, sort of staying in that area. But then your career won't progress as much. And then let's say you finalized on a city or you like the job and all. When you're not married, you don't need utna sa space.
Right.
Right. Then somebody marries in their 28 or just before 30, around 30. There's a big expenditure which happens during marriage time. So money also will be tight. Once you marry, then you're planning for your kid. That's when you have the surplus. That's when, the need for a house comes in one's life. So 30 to 35 is an ideal time to buy. And probably, depending on one's finances, of course, 42 to 45 also we have been seeing there is an upgrade there. Right. In terms of larger space requirement, because the family size is increasing, because once the main homeowner is becoming 40, 42, their parents are becoming 75 plus. So at that age, most of them, their parents stay with their kids, right? So in that case, the number of people per household is increasing. So mostly we are seeing a trend of people, again, depending on one's financials, people having two sort of upgrades in, like 2 houses in their life. Maybe, one or 2 upgrades they're doing.
Right. There's an ongoing Gen Z argument on the internet where people say that you should buy a house in your 60s, play with the money because your EMI is going to be more than the rent. Of course, if you're looking at 8.5%.
See, but that's what I don't understand. The argument is that वो तो logical है. I mean, you are buying with 8.5% and renting at 3%. You should not do it, boss.
Absolutely.
Never invest in real estate in your 30s or early years for renting. That is not at all useful.
Absolutely,
asset.
but like
you should buy it for flipping.
Absolutely.
Then you make the money, because then it becomes like an options trade.
Absolutely.
Right?
And you can use leverage to buy a home.
Exactly.
And 8.5% is the cheapest cost of capital in a country like India. Home loan is the cheapest form of loan.
Yes.
Why wouldn't you take it?
Yeah, that's how you should. But everybody think, I think they don't understand the flipping wala business model as much. But yeah, if the way you make money in real estate, at least built spaces, is purely by flipping.
Absolutely.
Enter right when the project
Entering
got approvals, exit upon handover. Don't stay.
Absolutely. Now, is that the only way a person can get rich in real estate? How else do you think a person can get rich in real estate?
I would say this is a sort of a more scalable way of getting rich in real estate. There are unscalable ways also. Let's say maybe some bureaucrat in the concerned department. Then also you can get rich. But these are not scalable things.
Right.
Maybe out of 100 people, 1 or 2 people can do this. Rest 98, we are not exposed to these sort of things.
Well said, because real estate is the only industry where one signature can change the value of the land to 50x.
Yes, it is.
So if you know someone, then of course it's a short way to.
Yeah. But I wouldn't say don't really bank on that, because the same someone tomorrow might not be there. Someone else might be there. They might reverse the signature, and then it might lead to some problems. But good thing. I mean, I would agree that these sort of things are quite common in our industry. But good thing is that falling down. The number of such transactions, what used to happen, probably if you take a scale of last 25 years, it's coming down progressively. In fact, now there's a scheme also by central government where they want to digitize all the land records.
Yes.
Under
Need of the hour.
There's some scheme name, I forgot. So under that scheme, they're using drones and digitizing all the land records. So, and mapping the land to your name and linking to this entire Aadhaar system, so that at least the sort of ownership things are clear. You don't have to go to a local dada or a Pilwan to get it resolved. It's clear.
Right.
Maybe
they're also using now blockchain for record keeping.
Yes.
So it can't be altered that easily.
Next, only the zonal changes, if it can be more organized.
Yeah.
Then I think the arbitrage of this signature wala thing has to become zero. then it becomes a level playing field for everybody. Then the most smartest win,
Correct.
right? Then you're seen in good light like other industries.
Now, which city in India, according to you, will give the most appreciation in real estate?
See, naturally, my answer would be biased to Hyderabad, but I'll keep it as factual as possible.
Right.
I'll cite some data points and my point of view. I'll back it up with that data, right?
Right.
So, see, I'll tell Hyderabad as the best chance. So, why? First thing, for any city to boom, it needs to offer consistently good, high-paying jobs.
Right.
Right? Hyderabad mein, every year we are doing minimum, the economy is generating 1 lakh IT jobs, which are knowledge economy, so high paying wages. Like, because we are doing around 12 million square feet, 11 to 12 million square feet of net leasing. For every million square feet, it's 10,000 jobs across any city. Bangalore is the only city now doing slightly above us, around 15 to 16 million. Hyderabad is second after Bangalore, right, in terms of number of IT jobs. So there is a consistent job generation, so people can migrate to the city and find opportunities, right? Once, let's say you got a job, you started living. What do you need for good life? First, the most basic, you need good roads, right? You're going to commute to your office, matlab good urban mobility. Now, urban mobility mein Hyderabad is one of the best in the country. Only Delhi is better than Hyderabad. Hyderabad is second best. So the amount of time you take to travel, in an hour, like, the speed at which you travel in the city in an hour is the highest in the country. After Delhi, we are at like 24.8 kilometers speed. Bangalore is at around 19.6.
Right.
So lowest. Mumbai is around 21, 22. Right. Again, these are something which change also. It's not like static. As government builds more infrastructure, it keeps changing. But this has to be seen, or people will think, okay, it's just another 5 more minutes I need to travel. But that's not the point. The point is the average commute length which one does in the city. So which is seen as a measure of what is the distribution of your housing colonies from the city center, right? In the case of Hyderabad, that's average around 20 kilometers.
Right.
In the case of Bombay, it's the highest at 37, 38 kilometers. In Bangalore, it's around 30, 31 kilometers. So not only are you going to travel slow, you're going to travel long. So which almost translates into per day 30 to 40 minutes of more time in traffic compared to most of the other cities. So urban mobility wise, Hyderabad is number one. Right? Next, so now you started living, what do you need now? You need your house to have electricity. Electricity ka problem I won't really dwell because all the major cities have solved it. Now there's good electricity conditions in Bombay, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Delhi, everywhere. But let's take the water case. Right? Water is again something which is, you have seen major headlines in the last 2 years about the situation which happened in Chennai where we had to send water and goods trains, right? Water tanker trains, and Bangalore and all. So, kya ho raha hai na? Most of the cities, the source of domestic water supply is from the groundwater, bore wells, right? When a city is urbanizing, one of the key sign of urbanization is what percentage of households get water from piped water. That's a big sign of a city being urbanized. Let me compare with Bangalore because data is more available. Bangalore ka pura, domestic water supply per day is 1400 MLPD, million liters per day. Hyderabad ka 2600. So almost 2x of it.
Wow.
Right? The water ka piping connection that, at the 1400 MLPD, they are serving 13 million citizens. In Hyderabad at 2600, 13 million. So because of higher supply of water, per capita consumption of water is also high.
Right.
Higher per capita of consumption of water, better is the quality of life.
Right.
Point number one. Next point is now the length of all the water pipeline which is laid out in Bangalore is around 575 kilometers. Hyderabad is 1200. So water, which is a very, very fundamental resource, we are beating most of the cities fair and square.
Right.
So that's again very, very important thing. Another third important point I would cite is the entire thing with women safety, right? Hyderabad has 64% of all the CCTVs you find in the country are in Hyderabad.
My God, that's a big number.
Very big number. That's 7th highest in the world also.
My God.
And on any typical day, from your home to office, you just commute, you are captured 40 times. Highest in the country. Highest in the world is London, around some 300 or 310 something. But in India, we are the highest and probably 7th highest in the world. Now, what is this translating? Why is this important? Why this is important is this is translating into lower crimes against women. Now, why is that important? Apart from the social aspect, yes, crimes against anybody should come down, particularly against women also should come down. But why, from an economic standpoint, why it's important is when crimes against women goes down, the labor participation, women participation in labor workforce goes up. So when the woman also is working, then the household becomes a double income household. When it's a double income household, naturally your quality of life goes up faster.
Correct.
So these three things is the reason I would say Hyderabad is India's best city for the next decade to come by.
And you know what? Data supports this now. I have 2 data points. One, I'm going to talk about the number of property registrations per se. The most number of properties registered in India in 2024, Hyderabad is at number 2, right? And that's 65,177 residential properties, right? That's worth over 1,13,939 crores. That's close to about 1,14,000 crores.
Yeah.
But the second fact, the second data point really surprises me. Now, any guesses, guys? I want to ask this to my production team as well, because they're always around me with real estate. So they also know real estate by now. There was a study done for 2024. We compared all the metro cities within India, and we tracked the transactions of homes sold above 10 crores in the luxury segment, where each residential home should be above 10 crores. And do you know where Hyderabad stands in the list? At number 3.
Wow.
That too after cheating. And I'll explain why. At number 1 is not Mumbai, it's Mumbai Metropolitan Region.
So it's
MMR, it's a region.
Coverage, right?
That's at 928 units, approximately 20,000 crores. Number 2 again is cheating, NCR.
Region.
We talk about a region. Did 795 units, again approximately 20,000 crores. Number 3 is just Hyderabad.
Wow. So that's a city then we have.
As a city, which has done 689 units at 10,300 crores, which is phenomenal for just a city. And Bangalore is 1/6 of that. It's around 1,300 crores.
See, real estate runs in our veins.
That's incredible. You all have done like 15 times more than Chennai, about 30 times more than Pune. And Kolkata is just at 150 crores. So,
yeah, see, again, let's put it this way, when the luxury sector is booming, it means, see, the customers of this is all business owners or self-employed, like lawyers, doctors, and folks like that. So the economy is booming.
Right.
Of course, there will be some teething issues on a 10-year scale, some cyclicality will be there, but fundamental level, the economy is booming. Hyderabad is not just one of the IT capital of the country, it's the pharma capital of the country as well.
Right.
Now we are becoming one of the major hub for manufacturing, high-tech manufacturing. Foxconn has set up their facility with 20,000 employees, phase 1. By the time all the phases finish, there are 2 or 3 phases, by 2028, 1 lakh people in one compound working.
My God.
That entire belt, that's south of Hyderabad, almost close to 3 lakh people are going to work. And now government has come up with an initiative of making an AI city, India's first such concept. So a dedicated, again, land zoning, principally done for companies working in the AI and this new age tech industry. So that's again something futuristic, and it's very close to the airport. So there's it's like Hyderabad every 10 years it has a new story.
Right.
So that's something which has been really
very healthy sign, according to you, just for the luxury segment to increase so much. 689 units in total sold just last year. So approximately 2 units a day being sold above 10 crores each.
And good for the city.
Yeah. Good report by CRE Matrix. And any particular reason why luxury in Hyderabad has exploded?
2 things, Mayank. I think luxury generally has a use case across the country. Why that's happening is, if you look at post 21, right, a lot of the mid-sized, small-sized companies and executives in the tech sector, senior executive tech sector, got cash exits.
Right.
Matlab, senior executives got ESOP exits, right? And ESOP industry, which industry gave more ESOPs? Tech industry.
Absolutely.
Where is tech industry more aggregated? Hyderabad, Bangalore and Hyderabad. So when these companies went for listing or some private equity came and invested in this company, the ESOPs got released.
Right.
Now those people, whenever ESOP release comes, it's a big money.
Right.
They go invest in luxury real estate. Point number 1. And 21-22 May, post-pandemic, the credit was very cheap globally, where a lot of Western companies came and invested in various pharma companies, mid-sized tech companies and all. So those people also got exits. And back in the day, until, if I'm not wrong, 23, if let's say you sold a company, you have to pay capital gain, which now has been 12.5%. Back in the day, it was around 23%. If you invested that money in a real estate for 3 years, the entire capital gain is waived off. That rule was there. So that taxation boost, a lot of people invest in real estate to save on the capital gain. Now that rule is sort of removed. You can only do it to a maximum of 10 crores and one house. Now it's changed. So things will be a little different now. But nevertheless, so all these companies were getting exits. So there's good amount of capital pouring into the city because of the prospects of the businesses. So hence all of this has happened.
Within Hyderabad, according to you, what is the best location to invest within Hyderabad?
Yeah, again, in all of this, before I say my answer, there will be some biases, but I'll try to back it with data.
But yeah.
Right. So in my opinion, the best is financial district area.
Okay.
Why? Again, because there is, see, unlike Bangalore, Hyderabad, a lot of the IT leasing is just focused in two areas. In Bangalore, it's more around the city. Right. In Hyderabad, it's only two areas: high-tech city and financial district. And high-tech city, there's no new land for residential, hardly any land, only available for commercial use. So this 12 million square feet which is getting leased is only happening in two areas. Versus Bangalore ka 15 million happening all across the city. So per area, per suburb, if you see, it's 3-4 million. In Hyderabad, per suburb, it's around 6.5 million. So this is because there's such strong leasing. There's a metric also. For every 1 square footage of commercial leasing, there's a 7 square feet of residential demand which gets created over a span of next 2 years with a 2-year lag. Right? So you put those metrics. So these, in terms of suburb wise, this is where the highest leasing is happening pan-India.
Right.
So the financial district is the best suburb of the entire city. Right, that's where all the IT action is happening. And next, naturally, supporting infrastructure like schools, right, parks, these sort of things are also coming up. Schools are already there, good number of international schools and all. Malls is something now work is beginning. I've heard two launches kind of information.
Right.
So that's how that I would say is the best one.
So Hyderabad has this concept of unlimited FSI, right? Can you tell me what this unlimited FSI is? Right, because it sounds too good to be true, right?
See, Mayank, first thing is Hyderabad has, I wouldn't say unlimited totally, but high FSI. That's how I would put it. Why I'm saying that? Because Hyderabad, if you have to build, let's say 50 floors or 60 floors, your site needs to be abutting a minimum 6-lane road.
Right.
So what the government's opinion is that, okay, if your property is abutting a 6-lane road or a 8-lane road,
so they have obviously
there is good amount of transportation infrastructure established, right? So then it's better to go vertical. Now I'm a big believer of unlimited FSI or high FSI because two things. One, let's take cities like Bangalore, right? Now Bangalore has half the FSI of Hyderabad. They have 3.25 FSI. To just give your viewers a little understanding of FSI, FSI is the amount of square feet you can build on a square yard of land. Right. That is what is FSI. When I say 1 FSI, it means 1 square, first I need to convert square yard into square feet, which is 9. Matlab I can build 9 square feet per yard. 1 acre has 4,800 square yards, so 4,800 into 9, mota moti, 45,000. That's the math. Right, now Bangalore has 3.25 FSI and another 0.6 you can buy, which will take it up to 5. Hyderabad, at least in the western suburbs, we build around 10 FSI. Same like your downtown South Bombay sort of thing. Now, people think that if more FSI will lead to more congestion and roads becoming clogged. Let's look at the data, right? Bangalore has half the FSI. Which city has more traffic jams, Bangalore or Hyderabad? It's Bangalore. Which city, and stats and data is saying. So, one thing is FSI is not directly linked to your traffic congestion, right? Traffic congestion is an urban phenomenon. People buy in cities, people buy cars, which leads to, and the more FSI you bring in, more dispersed your development grows, wherein which more and more you have to commute towards the city centers. So even your commute kilometers per day also goes up. And with higher with restricted FSI, what happens? As a developer, I have to buy that FSI from the government, or maybe from another person who's trading FSI in the market. So my cost of land is further going up. So the cost of square footage goes up, which ultimately is a burden on the end user. Let's take a look at Bombay. I think in one of the podcast I've seen Niranjan Nirandani sir also talk that in Bombay, almost, let's say a consumer is paying 5 crore for a house, almost 2.5 crore is going to the government.
Government is a sleeping partner.
Government is a sleeping 50% wala partner. Right now, the consumer core 2.5 crore house is buying at 5 crore and is feeding the 2.5 crore just to the government. So government is taking a share of every householder.
Right.
So that's and because of which their quality of life is low. I mean, they can buy a bigger house, but they're getting a smaller one because of FSI. So unlimited FSI is a big reason to make entire housing affordable. Right? If not, it's going to become unaffordable because that increased cost will be end of the day passed on to the end buyer. Right. So because of, let's look at one stat. Hyderabad mein core city center like Gachibowli, right? It's a core city center. The average square footage of apartment, a good community apartment, is around 10,000, 10,500 rupees. In Bangalore, in its core, it's around 18 to 20,000. It's double. Because it's double, you look at the average per capita space consumption on a carpet level. In Bangalore is almost 30 to 40% less than that in Hyderabad. So you matlab for your same money, you're going to get a much smaller space. So I am a big believer of unlimited FSI or high FSI. Naturally, high FSI poses some problems.
Right.
Just like any other thing. The problems here is now more you're building per acre, right? What happens to the quality of life in the community? This can be effectively addressed by better planning. Like in our case, because we build in the downtown or the western, like financial district of Hyderabad, wherever we are building more, we are increasing the amenity space from 3% to 5.5%. Almost 70% we are increasing. So, and because you have more apartments, you're able to give better.
So normally
amenities.
you would 3% of the total built up
Yes,
area
it's
will
the
be
norm.
amenity. Right.
We are providing 5.5 because there are more apartments.
Right.
Because of which we are able, because when there are more apartments, you're getting a good creche service provider to come and serve. Like unless, at least in Hyderabad, if you don't have 1,000 apartments, you don't get a good creche ka service provider because it won't be viable for his business. So the services also have to be seen. And when all your utilities like electricity and all of these are metered, so you're todina ki you're paying your neighbor's water bill, you're not.
Right.
You're paying only aapka water bill. Everything is document like consumption based, on demand. So it's one has to carefully plan for the density, then it's safe. Like for example, lifts. One thing in one of the problem with higher FSI is you need to plan well for your lifts. If not, people will end up clogging at the lift lobby. So we have got good data on, okay, we are giving for every 50 apartments, we're giving one lift. So more number of lifts. So you need to plan it in accordance, and IFSI is a better policy, in my opinion, compared to restricted FSI, wherein you will be paying most of the money to the government.
Right. And premiums are just so, Mumbai premiums are so expensive.
Like for 5 crores, what you get here
horrendous.
Versus what you get in Hyderabad, I feel there you'll have a king life.
Absolutely.
And this is, through you, I would want to tell to all your...
With better AQI.
With much better AQI and much lesser time spent in traffic. Much better quality of life.
And better infra.
Better infra.
And better biryani. Jokes apart.
Though the food scene in Bombay, I like.
Bombay food
but through you, I would like to definitely tell your viewers also, if you guys are considering to settle down in a city, please visit Hyderabad, stay there for a weekend and then take a decision.
For sure. So typically in gated communities, what is the FSI that you'll end up consuming?
Okay, that depends area to area, but let me tell the prime areas.
Right.
In prime areas, we approximately end up consuming around 9-ish.
Okay.
Around 9 FSI is what we consume.
Right.
Just like I think most of South
And that
Mumbai,
brings the cost of the land much cheaper, right? Because now you're calculating cost of
your
FSI.
cost of land comes down. Your cost of construction goes up a little bit, but the cost of land comes down. Hence, we are able to operate at 10,000 rupees in core city areas.
Right.
Something in Bombay that's equivalent to what? Around 60,000 rupees, 50,000 rupees, your core city areas. In Bangalore, it's 18,000 rupees. Why is Hyderabad 10,000? Because of the unlimited FSI or high FSI.
So a lot of builders hearing that FSI 9 have, will have water in their mouth because feasibility reports would just look.
In fact, what I'm saying is even cited by Mr. Amitabh Kant. Amitabh Kant sir is Niti Aayog CEO. He has also strongly urged state governments to reduce, regulate, deregulate FSI, make it free, make it market condition case up, say, like, allow high FSI rather than restricting FSI. He has been a big proponent believer of that to bring down the housing prices and keep it under check. Because today, frankly, in most major cities, housing is becoming an impossible thing for middle class people also. Right? Then where will so many people stay? So if government is getting 50%, 60% of their house ka purchase, then what do we say?
Impossible.
The government don't want you to buy a house. It looks like that. But of course, there is a strong push from policymakers to, at least at a central level, to start, deregulating FSI, giving higher FSI, at least in areas which have bigger roads, things like that. And I think slowly the change. Hyderabad has been a torchbearer in that vision.
Coming to that point of view, that you made earlier, 50% is going to the government. That's why there's a joke in Mumbai real estate circle is that the only way you can make a house affordable in Mumbai is to cut its size down. Because you can't really compromise on construction quality.
Exactly. Right.
And you're paying so high on premiums. Now, my next question to you with regards to unlimited FSI is, where does a developer draw that line with how much FSI to consume? Right? Because it can
go out of hand.
It can go out of hand, right? Now, obviously, you are planning your projects well. Like you said, planning is extremely important to you're giving 6% amenity space, right?
Correct.
But this can also backfire, right? Because there would be developers who still stick to a 3%, perhaps even a 2%, and make it very dense, probably consume a 12, 13 FSI.
Correct.
So where does a developer draw its line?
See, what my point of view regarding this is, let the market determine it, right? Whether a 13 FSI will be viable, will make good business sense, or a 9. I think this should be left to the entrepreneur and his business.
Right.
If they're a business, naturally, if they overbuild it, their sales will be low. They will get stuck, because entrepreneur ka khud ka intelligence hota hai na. Why would somebody
his call on his own product?
His own product. Let the other. Everything we should not go and make a rule. Right. If we make everything into a rule, kya hoga? I mean, it will become like a Soviet era run country, right? We don't want that. So let the market decide it on its own, whether a 9 FSI will sell, or I might even realize that, okay, here the pricing I can get more, so I'll reduce the FSI to maybe 7 and charge more.
Charge the premium.
That sort of customers are there.
Right.
So let the market realize that. We should not go on it from a rule-based approach, right? So that's my opinion. And if each to their own, if they build high and it still works, good. If they build high, it doesn't work, then it's good. That's where your product market fit will look into that problem.
Right.
You don't have to worry about it.
Right.
As a government, I mean.
Yeah. Right. Now, have you seen, since the last 4-5 years of COVID, right? The world has seen a paradigm shift, almost, right? What have been the changes in buyer preferences when it comes to homes in Hyderabad since the last 5 years?
See, one thing is, which I see a trend all across, is that the average per capita consumption of space has gone up.
Right.
People now want more space than what they wanted before, because home is having to offer multiple services. Like before, it was more like a shelter, right? Now it's shelter plus work from home, so work wala environment, and several such services or features what it has to provide. So per capita consumption of space has gone up, one key thing. Other thing what I'm seeing is a lot of NRIs particularly have begun investing, particularly Telugu people staying in the US are investing extensively in Hyderabad, because for the entire Telugu people, Hyderabad is the only place which is generating high amount of jobs. So most of NRIs work in tech industry. So if they want to come back home, it's only Hyderabad, because that's where the tech scene is, right? So that's why a lot of sort of FDI moving into, Hyderabad residential real estate sector. So these are something which are significantly an uptick.
Right. Any particular lifestyle changes within the people of Hyderabad?
See, lifestyle changes, one is the work from home has, at least in the tech area, has gone up crazily high. Now, almost 82% of our customers, when polled across 1,000 people, said they're exposed to hybrid work culture. That one thing I'm seeing. And next, from a lifestyle angle also, I'm seeing more, the dad's participation in household chores is also going up. That also we could see, especially when it comes to child upbringing.
Right.
Like dropping the child at school, doing more, activities around from a child perspective. That we have seen gone up. And next, we are seeing our customers ask more in the lines of, can we provide some solution for housekeeping needs? Right? Developers generally don't do that, but now we are seeing that. And in fact, we earmark in our next 3 years sort of problems to figure out wala section mein, can we figure out the housekeeping wala problem? Can we clean our customers' houses?
Right.
Right. So a lot of, I would say, serviced housing.
Right.
That's what I feel the market is going to shift, because see, it's
already happening in Dubai.
Yeah, it's already happening in Dubai. There's a need also for that, because most of the people who are staying in this, who are consuming real estate in the prime city centers, are double income households.
Yeah.
Right, where both wife and husband are working, and the double income households working in advanced technologies. So what's happening is, unlike the 40-hour per week, they're almost putting in 50 to 55 hours per week. So the amount of time they're spending in their work is much higher. Hence they're earning more, but
Right.
even the time they're putting in. And on top of that, they're spending close to 1.5 hour approximately, particularly the women, 1.5 hour a day to manage the household chores, managing the housekeeper, the maid, the cook, groceries, all of this, 1.5 hour children. So roughly weekly, it's around 10 to 12 hours, right? 10 hours, you can assume, 8 to 10 hours. So if we as developers can take away some of that problems, right, and give them back 4 or 5 hours, that's huge value add, because
Right.
these people, they have money. What they don't have is time.
Right.
If we can create another 4 or 5 hours for you, 10% of your active time, then that's gold. I think that's where our future business is going to shift to, not towards SFTs facing and all. These are important,
Right.
but fundamentally the services aspect.
Absolutely. And I was, if you go to see like 30, 40 years ago, there's a lot of disruptions within the product, right? A clubhouse was so new that time.
Correct.
A gated community was so new that time. Today, every developer is going to give gated communities. Every developer is giving all the amenities, 30, 40 plus amenities, right?
Correct.
It's getting much harder to differentiate and disrupt a product.
Exactly.
As such, right? You giving me a pool, okay, I'll give you a temperature control pool, but it ends there. What else can I do? Right? I see, I totally agree with whatever you said, because I also see now the real disruption will come in service. Product disruptions already happened in the last 30 years.
Correct.
We've seen amenities, we've seen clubhouses, we've seen high rises. All of that is like,
True.
I think once the post handover, how a developer can, still be around and kind of what services they can provide, also from pre-sales to post-sales.
Correct.
I think that is going to be
that's going to be the game changer for the future. So
Right.
all probably, that's where we should be working towards.
And there's like Amex, right? The concierge service.
Exactly.
I think that is.
In fact, one of the use cases we're working on also is to provide like equal component to what Tesla and BYD. They're making autonomous cars. We want to provide an AI home manager to all our homeowners.
Oh, okay.
Something which will manage the maid, an algo which manages the maid, which manages the cook, which manages your grocery purchases, and any other visitor and facility management facility interactions which a consumer does. So it's something like more like a 3-year use case for us, and we are solving things around that.
So it's currently under development, right?
It's under
now?
development. We need to get into nitty-gritty details. Like for example, see, like something like a housekeeping service, if you want to streamline, first it has to become viable. There needs to be 15-20% margin. If there's no margin, then it becomes difficult to invest in that. So now we are seeing, okay, how many houses a particular maid has to work so that it becomes possible to make it viable, and then it should even be doable by him or her, right? They can't continuously work. They can work like 8 hours. In 8 hours, how many houses can they do? So all of these so what we are realizing is roughly 2 hours if we can do per house, it's possible. 2 hours mein kya karte hain?
Correct.
So I'll share one little detail. So we realized that, okay, there is clothes everything around clothes, let's assume. Again, something where people spend time washing and then ironing and all. So there are, okay, some agencies which will do that. Then, okay, we will take the clothes and put it on the bed, not in the wardrobe, because we can't do that. That takes extra time. So we are getting to that level. What is possible to do in 2 hours, at the same time creating value to our customers. Nice. Once we fix it, maybe I think couple of years. Now trials are going to start in another 3-4 months.
Right.
So we have to do trials for 5-6 months, see all the teething issues. What are the safety aspect people are thinking? Another very interesting thing in this line also, which I think I should cite it, is the abuse of maids which happens. Very, very, very important thing. So how can you prevent that? So now we are putting like as part of their vest, a sort of a voice recorder.
Okay.
So that any sort of abuse, if people know that it's under sort of it's monitored, then there's less. You need to provide safe working conditions also, right?
Correct.
So all of these trials are going on. We'll have to experiment, make mistakes and learn. I think we're 2 to 3 years away.
While keeping privacy also.
Now how do you capture for the privacy thing in this?
Right.
So all of these things we are working out.
Right. Now, interesting. What according to you, I want an honest answer as a developer, is a very useful amenity that you've seen your residents use, and the most useless amenity?
Well, that changes
with hyperlocation to hyperlocation.
Location to location, but something...
say in the mid-luxury segment.
Mid-luxury segment, I would say something very useful and sort of new one which is coming up is a medical office.
Okay.
Right, where we are tying up with healthcare providers. They'll be running doctors on rotation, but there'll be 24/7 trained paramedics on facility with a 24/7 ambulance on facility. Because anything happens, in 20 minutes you should be able to go to an hospital. At least in the locations where we're building, the hospitals are there in 20 minutes. But the transport has to be set up, and our trained paramedic will be of handy. This, I think, is a very emergency में much needed thing.
Yeah.
Seldom used, but in times of use,
But
it's
extremely important.
Critical case. This, I think, and I think most useless one would be something like library and all. Nobody really goes. People are reading from their mobile.
Absolutely.
And any which ways, we are removing those. Another interesting thing also we are doing is play zones. So you see in malls, the soft play zones where kids have those indoor plays, more like slides with all the bouncy balls and all of that. That we are seeing as a huge top seller. So when we experimentally given in one of our community, it's totally filled with kids. Impossible to bring them out of that. Supremely engaging them. So that way we tour malls and we are seeing like which place gets used more and what of that can be replicated in a housing community.
Right.
And another something would be, generally we give swimming pools. What we actually see, 90% of the swimming pools are used by the kids, 10% only by the adults. Now kids, when they're using the swimming pool, they're not doing swimming as a sporting activity, they're playing in the water. Right? So, but the swimming pool is more built as a sports thing. Matlab you do professional swimming sort of thing. So we have seen a lot of kids get injured because it's all tiled and stuff, right? So the sharp edges and all. So we are moving now. We are going away, like swimming pools also working, but we're doing water play areas, which is more shallow and pura padded surface. So even if you fall, it's spongy surface, nothing will happen to you. So these are, I would say, some of the traits. I think if you ask me, a key trait will be focus on the kids.
Right.
You focus on the kids from a product perspective. Naturally, in fact, the big use case for buying gated apartments is kids.
Absolutely.
Kids and elders. Because the working age, they're busy with their work and various aspects. Kids and elders is the biggest use case for buying a gated product, gated community product.
Well pointed out, actually, yeah.
We ourselves have sold away our independent house and moved into a gated. Because 2 kids. So my wife was pressurizing me to, they need to have friends.
No, and it helps the kids with confidence as well.
Exactly.
Socializing at such an early age. Gone are the days where people want to have memberships of gymkhanas.
You travel there, it's going to take 2 hours.
I keep joking about it, like, imagine driving a car for 30 minutes to go run on a treadmill.
Nobody does
what
what common sense would it make?
Exactly.
Exactly right.
Just go right down, and I think most products now in real estate are so customer centric. A customer doesn't have to even leave the township to go out. I think COVID was also a big
one such thing.
Right.
So convenience, I think, is a very big thing.
Right.
So that's what I think.
Now coming to the supply, right? The $1 million question: the supply in Hyderabad now. 48,534 housing units were launched in Hyderabad in 2024. Whereas when we talk about property registrations, were at 65,000 in 2024. Now, you can't totally say because of this stat that demand outstrips supply, right? Because they could have been staggered registrations, right?
Yes.
But do you still feel like Hyderabad will keep this momentum? Because that's a lot of supply. 48,000 housing units launched in 1 year. 2024 still a lot of supply. And this is lesser than what was in 2023.
Yeah. 2023 supply.
We saw crazy supply in 2023.
Yeah.
So do you think it could just be a real estate bubble, or Hyderabad has the strong fundamentals to absorb all the supply?
See, that's a very good question, Mayank. So in fact, recently there were few local newspaper headlines also which said 1 lakh units unsold inventory. But what they failed to point out is that supply, unsold inventory is one aspect. Next is what is the consumption? Demand kya chal raha hai? Hyderabad has moti 50,000 units we are selling a year. 50.
Right.
Yeah, let's catch 50,000. Now 50,000 units, 1 lakh units unsold. Matlab, in 2 years mein ye pura consume ho jayega. Right. So now most of the projects take 4 years to build. Right, 4 years mein, let's assume developer ka profit us project mein 20% hai. Matlab 80% of the inventory if I'm selling, I'm totally breaking even from my equity standpoint. Matlab, if 4 years I'm taking to build, I only need to sell 80%. What this is saying is 2 years mein I'm selling out all the inventory.
Right.
So what press and like sometimes it doesn't get covered is the concept called inventory overhang.
Yeah. Which is actually 19 months in Hyderabad.
Yes, it's 19 to 24 months. In fact, most major cities like Bangalore today is doing around 12-13 months.
Right.
MMR also somewhere there. NCR around 15-16 months. So most of the cities now the inventory overhang is sub 2 years.
Right.
Up to 30-36 months inventory overhang is totally fine. It really doesn't
Absolutely.
impact a developer. So that is not very headline catchy, so it doesn't get told.
Yeah.
But this gets told.
Also, I don't understand how the media counts unsold units.
I
don't know how they, because see, a lot of developers don't even report sales on the RERA portal.
There's no data.
How do you measure that? Right?
I don't know, seriously.
It makes a good news article.
Yeah, it's a good news article and it's good to spook people.
Yeah.
Which is also fine. It's not that it's totally wrong, but it needs to be studied in conjunction with the demand, not just supply 1 lakh units.
Right.
Unsold units 1 lakh units. Yeah, inventory overhang kya? If inventory overhang is less than 36 months, we don't need to worry.
Right.
Because you're taking only 48 months to build.
Absolutely.
It's not a problem.
Absolutely. I had a great time with you chatting and learning about Hyderabad real estate. Just one question before we sign off is, do you have a secret of success? Right? How does one real estate professional become successful in real estate, and not generic answers like work hard.
And all that, right? I won't give that. You work hard also.
Yeah, exactly. So, what according to you is your word of advice to people who want success in real estate? As of course, working professionals.
As a builder or a, let's say, land aggregator?
As a builder.
See, as a builder, it's very, very simple in my opinion, getting your product market fit right. Exceptionally important, and this is something which is very difficult also because the availability of data is not there in the sector. That there's no clean data.
Right.
So hence product market fit is going to be very difficult to achieve, like research about it. And second, most developers don't know about it also because I mean these are smart people, right? Why they don't know is because their entire time is spent on the land acquisition and approvals and this sort of framework. That's what is the main incentive for them. But if they can realign their focus to product market fit, I think there is a huge success story. And second thing is, a developer business, minimum one should commit themselves for a 10-year period.
Right.
Matlab, it's not like probably a crypto trading. Like I went in today and I made money tomorrow. It's not like that. In fact, most businesses for that matter of fact, if you have to earn decent money and good amount of reputation as well, you have to spend 10 years.
Right.
And especially in developer business, it will take minimum 3-4 years before you start seeing any positive sign. So first 3-4 years is going to be a very dark tunnel period. So stick to your guns. But yeah, give 10-year period and product market fit. Be very spot on with it. And as much as possible, I would recommend go towards cleaner lands, right? It might cost you more naturally versus unclean lands which has title issue or which has sort of somebody's blessings are required to sort of build it. It looks attractive, but they end up killing your time.
Right.
Too much uncertainty. So don't do that. Go to a cleaner land which has good title, buy it, or maybe take it on joint development and build it. It might be a little costlier to do it, but it helps you in scaling your business faster. These three is what I would say.
Very well summarized and to the point.
Yeah, and no hard work. That's it. This is not a motivational thing.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Mayank.
Very, very enlightening. Pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.